There is something special about the end of the year and enjoying the holidays with family and friends. There's also something to say about the start of a new year when things tend to reset and the renewal of energy you feel just to tackle those hard things right from the start. So January 2016, we did exactly that. And by this time, we had been married for just about a year and a half, and we were 34, about to turn 35 that summer. And what was nagging me in the back of my mind were all the studies that suggest a significant decline in egg quality at the age of 35. So y'all, I was thinking like that internal clock in my head was racing. Welcome back to Journey On with Kayla. Thanks for tuning into part 2 of my fertility journey. If you're new here, please be sure to check out part 1 so that you're all caught up. And also, please like, comment, and subscribe to get notified, I should say, when a new video is released. Let's get into the story, please. Let's just get into it. Okay, so by now I was starting to get very anxious. I thought, let's go see a fertility specialist just to get checked out, and at least I would feel better just knowing, where we were just at a baseline level and where we stood with like our hormones and everything else. Did I have any significant issues? Was male factor infertility at play here? I just needed to be sure. The problem was this was a major step for my husband, and he didn't think that we needed to go this route so early, but he didn't mind getting checked out, and anything beyond that was just completely out of the question. And I understood that he needed some time to accept where we were and the reality of the process and where we were at this point. And Lee, call him by his middle name, Henry Lee, ultimately agreed, and off we were to see a fertility specialist. We get there, and during our consultation, you guys, the doctor was using all of this terminology that was like way over our heads. We hardly knew anything about the process, let alone what questions to ask, which is so frustrating. We were not prepared, and if you're entering into the IVF process for the first time, you're usually so uninformed and look to the doctors to like break things down in layman's terms for you, and it could take a long time before the light bulbs click on, a long time and a lot of money. At least that's how it felt for me, but leave me a message in the comments below if you've ever experienced this during your process. Anyway, all of our blood work came back normal, with the exception of my AMH level. And if you're not familiar with what AMH stands for, it stands for anti-Mullerian hormone, which measures a person's egg count. My level was at an 11 and as a 34-year-old. And to put that into context, a 25-year-old's levels are between 3 and 5. So mine was exceptionally high, and that indicated that I had a high egg reserve count. It also indicated that I could have PCOS, or polycystic ovary syndrome. And that's basically a chronic hormonal condition that affects women of reproductive age that could be a cause, could cause infertility, cysts, and other health conditions like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, the works. But because I didn't have any of those chronic conditions based on, my test results, all the doctors could do is just call it unexplained infertility. Lord help us. I didn't know what to make of these findings. This was obviously news to me. I'm not sure if it was good or bad, but it felt kind of good because we had some kind of direction and which way to go. Well, we knew we had a ton of eggs to work with, and all I needed was advice on how to proceed further. Look, I don't even know what we thought, but we definitely didn't think that IVF was an option at this point, since besides, we were just going in for a basic checkup. Well, the doctor told us that I was qualified to be in a study where they were offering patients a free round of IVF who had a high AMH level and that were 35 years or under, and I had just made the cut. And because of that, obviously, it included medication and egg freezing. And when I heard free, that was like music to my ears. I mean, a $25,000 procedure that would be done for free. So I started to consider like bypassing all the less intrusive methods and jump straight into IVF to get our baby here as quickly as possible. I mean, no diet, no working out. So as y'all could tell, my faith was definitely not at play here, and I was operating out of fear and angst. Furthermore, my husband was not on board. I was so ready to move forward and frustrated that he wasn't. But I had to pump my brakes and just consider like, how is this impacting him as well? I was not alone in this process, and we had the common goal of having a family, but I didn't realize that this extreme step would be how it would be affecting him as a man and as a Christian. I mean, he felt as though IVF was like playing God. And we would learn, and understand that God is the only one who can give life. And the doctors can only go so far with assisting in the process, which is a special gift that, they were also given by God. So we had this big, deep discussion about it and came to the conclusion that I was really jumping in face forward into something that neither one of us had even agreed on in the first place. So ultimately, I pushed that to the back burner and decided not to pursue the study. Meanwhile, life was doing what it was supposed to do, taking us through the ups and downs, and I was unhappy working in the tax industry, the long hours, the anxiety over making a mistake, the toxic work environment. I mean, it was just all taking a toll on me. I was eating horribly and not paying attention to my overall health, both mentally and physically, which also, can impact fertility. So I remember going into work one early morning in 2016. It was about 6 a.m. I walked into my office, I shut the door, and I kept my lights off, and it was still dark outside. And as I started to look out the window on the 25th floor, all I could see was the beautiful twinkling lights of the Houston skyline. I was so moved, I started to pray, and I prayed from a deep place of hopelessness for wanting children and escaping this soul-crushing job that I felt trapped in. And I bowed my head on my desk, and when I picked it up, I noticed 3 tears that fell on the surface of my desk. That's the actual tears, you guys. And in that very moment, I felt an immediate burden lifted from my spirit. That was lifted from my spirit. It was like God was speaking to my heart, and those 3 tears represented children. You see, my husband has a daughter from a previous relationship, and she represented one of those tears. I felt very strongly and convicted in my heart that those other 2 tears represented children that I would bear. And I felt like it was a promise to me from Jesus, seriously. And I wasn't expecting anything going into the office that day, but the Holy Spirit just took over and spoke to my heart. And that moment created a fiery faith in me that couldn't be quenched, or so I thought. But anybody who has experienced that knows what I mean. So in August 2016, after 11 years of being a tax consultant, I quit my job. And no, I didn't have anything lined up. And no, I didn't care. I wasn't fearful of not getting a steady paycheck. After 11 years, I was mentally exhausted and burnt out. I had zero desire to grow in that environment. I consider myself a very strong person, so it takes a long time for me to get to that point. I mean, I'm an 80s baby, for God's sake. In fact, I just never felt so discontent in my life. But after losing my father and going through a miscarriage and then month after month of trying to get pregnant, I felt I was on the verge of a mental breakdown. And something really needed to shake. And I don't know if y'all have ever come to a point in life where you're at your wits' end and just had enough. But seriously, I was at my breaking point. And Lee he could see me seriously deteriorating. And we agreed that this was the best decision for my emotional stability. So I gave my 2 weeks notice, and it was one of the best feelings I've ever had. Fast forward to 2017, I started to pursue an attempt at entrepreneurship, selling life insurance door to door. I know, tax, insurance, you can't get more glamorous. But the more I learned about it, the more passionate I became in teaching others about it. And it was tough and rewarding at the same time. And I finally realized that I was trading my time for money, working a 9-to-5 all those years, but that's a story for another time. But back then I did lack the discipline and mindset to excel as an entrepreneur. So I reluctantly, got a job working in employee benefits insurance. And seriously, the place was great. The people were great. I was learning something new. And all those toxic, feelings before at my previous job, I mean, that was in the rearview mirror. But 2017 was a year of change and a year of devastation, because that August, my beloved father-in-law, he passed away, and our family was rocked by his passing, and that took some time to go through the grieving process. And on top of that, for anyone who's lived in the Houston area during that time, we experienced the great 500-year flood of Hurricane Harvey, as you can see from the pictures here. After a whirlwind of that year, we were eager to welcome the next one. And all of these major events were compounding, and still there was no baby in sight. Look, I know that was a lot. I appreciate you all for riding along this journey with me. Because you see, the pain I was experiencing of not being able to have a baby also coincided with everything else in life that was being thrown at me. And it can feel like a lot, maybe even more than some can bear. But if you're able to endure suffering just for a little while, you will learn that everything turns around in time. So stay tuned to see how things turned around for me and my husband in the future videos. Also, if you would, leave a comment below to share a time when you felt like things just weren't moving for you, despite how hard you tried to make things happen. And in the meantime, stay encouraged and stay faithful. Love you all with the love of God. Until next time. Bye.